They broke my legs for refusing marriage, she cried, unaware the silent rancher would carry her home. Blood traced a dark line to the dirt behind Clara Morgan as she dragged herself forward, her shattered legs useless as broken sticks. Each pull forward sent lightning through her bones, but stopping meant dying. The canyon walls rose around her like the ribs of some dead giant, and the sun was already setting. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Please." Her fingers found purchase on a rock, hauled her body another foot. Behind her, the blood trail told the story of the last 3 hours. How far had she come? 100 yards? Less? 3 days ago, she'd stood in the town square with her back straight and her voice clear. Judge Blackwood had called the gathering to announce the engagement between his son Thomas and Clara Morgan. The whole town came to witness what they thought was a celebration. "Miss Morgan," Judge Blackwood had said, his voice carrying across the square, "step forward." Clara walked the platform where Thomas waited, his pale hands fidgeting with his watch chain. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "Thomas has expressed his desire to make you his wife." "Has he now?" "Yes, and I've agreed to the union." "Did anyone think to ask me?" The crowd stirred. Judge Blackwood's smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold. "Ask you? If I wanted to marry your son, one has nothing to do with it. This is about order, about what's proper." Clara looked at Thomas, still staring at his feet. Then she looked at the crowd. Her parents stood near the back, her father's face pale with worry. "I refuse." The words cut through the square like gunshots. Judge Blackwood stepped forward. "I beg your pardon? I refuse to marry him. I refuse to marry anyone I don't choose." "You will reconsider." "No, sir, I won't." "Miss Morgan, you seem to misunderstand your position." "I understand it perfectly. And my answer is no." That night, they came for her. Deputy Kane knocked on the door, while Clara helped her mother with supper. Her father answered, his hand shaking on the door handle. "Evening, William. We need to speak with your daughter." "What about?" "Official business." Clara appeared behind her father. "I'm here." Kane stepped inside without invitation. 2 more men followed, their faces hidden under hat brims. "Clara Morgan, you're coming with us." "On what charge?" "Disturbing the peace. Disrespecting a lawful authority." "I spoke my mind in a public square. You defied Judge Blackwood." "I refused a marriage proposal." "Same thing." Clara's father stepped forward. "Now, wait just a minute." Kane's hand moved to his gun. "Step aside, William. This doesn't concern you." "She's my daughter." "Not anymore, she isn't." They dragged Clara from a house while her mother screamed and her father stood frozen in the doorway. Outside, more men waited with iron rods and rope. "Where are you taking her?" William called. "Somewhere she can think about her choices." They tied her to a horse and rode into the night. Clara fought until her wrist bled, but the ropes held tight. They stopped at Devil's Throat, a canyon 20 miles from town where nothing grew and no one went. "Last chance, girl," Kane said. "Agree to marry Thomas Blackwood, and we'll take you home." "Go to hell." Wrong answer. The first blow shattered her left leg just below the knee. Clara's scream echoed off the canyon walls. Her father had followed them, she realized. He sat on his horse 50 yards away, held at gunpoint by another deputy. "Stop this." William shouted. "You want to watch?" Kane called back. "Then watch." The second blow broke her right leg. Clara felt consciousness slipping away, but Kane slapped her awake. "Stay with us. We want you to remember this." "Please," Clara gasped. "Please what?" "Stop. Say you'll marry him." "I can't." "Then you'll die out here." They left her in the dirt like garbage. Clara heard her father weeping as they rode away, but she couldn't see him anymore. Everything had gone gray at the edges. Now, hours later, she pulled herself toward a dark shape ahead, an old mining shack, its roof half collapsed but its walls still standing. If she could reach it before full darkness, she might survive the night. Her fingers found the threshold, pulled her inside. The floor was dirt and rotted wood, but it was shelter. Clara collapsed against the far wall, her legs screaming with every heartbeat. Outside, coyotes called each other across the canyon. Soon they'd smell the blood. Clara felt in her pockets for anything useful. A knife, matches, anything. Nothing. "I'm going to die here," she said aloud. Her voice sounded strange in the empty shack, like someone else's voice, someone weaker. "No," she said, stronger now. "No, I'm not." She refused to marry Thomas Blackwood. She refused to submit to Judge Blackwood's will. She sure as hell wasn't going to give up now. Clara tore strips from her dress, tied them around her legs to slow the bleeding. The pain made her vision swim, but she stayed conscious through it alone. Hours passed. The moon rose to the broken roof, casting silver light across the dirt floor. Clara dozed and woke, fighting to stay alive. Then she heard it, hoofbeats approaching through the canyon. Her heart hammered. Had they come back to finish her? Or had someone come looking? Her father, maybe, finally brave enough to defy the judge? The hoofbeats stopped outside the shack. Clara held her breath, listening. Footsteps approached the door, slow and careful. A shadow filled the doorway. The shadow in the doorway belonged to a man, tall and lean, moving with the careful grace of someone who'd learned to walk quietly. Clara pressed herself against the wall, her broken legs sending waves of agony through her body. The man stepped inside, moonlight catching his face. Deep-set eyes, weathered skin, a mouth that looked like it hadn't smiled in years. He saw Clara and stopped, his gaze taking the blood, the torn dress, the unnatural angle of her legs. He knelt beside her without speaking. "Please," Clara whispered. "Don't hurt me." The man's eyes softened. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small piece of wood, along with a knife. His hands moved quickly, carving letters into the soft pine. He held it up, "Help you." Clara stared at the carved words. "You can't speak?" The man shook his head. He carved another word. "Jacob. Jacob. I'm Clara." Jacob nodded. He examined her legs with gentle fingers, his touch surprisingly knowledgeable. Clara winced but didn't pull away. "Are you a doctor?" Jacob carved. "N.O. Learned." "From who?" Jacob's face darkened. He carved slowly. "Dead wife. I'm sorry." Jacob stood and walked to the far wall of the shack. Clara watched him run his fingers along the wooden boards, searching for something. He found what he wanted and pressed against a loose plank. It swung inward, revealing a hidden space. From inside, Jacob pulled out supplies. Clean cloth, wooden splints, a bottle of something that smelled like medicine. He'd been here before. This was his refuge. "How long have you been hiding here?" Jacob carved. 3 years. He worked on Clara's legs with practiced skill, setting the bones as straight as he could manage. Clara bit down on a piece of leather he gave her, tears streaming down her face, but she didn't scream. When he finished, Jacob carved, "Judge Blackwood." "How did you know?" Jacob pointed to her legs, then made a breaking motion with his hands. He'd seen this before. "Yes, I refused to marry his son." Jacob's jaw tightened. He carved, "Thomas. You know him?" Jacob nodded grimly. He moved to another wall of the shack, one Clara hadn't noticed in the darkness. In the moonlight, she could see words carved deep into the wood. Hundreds of them, a story told in scars. Jacob lit a small lantern from his supplies, and the words became clear. Names, dates, crimes. All in Jacob's careful handwriting. "My God, how long have you been documenting this?" Jacob carved, "Since they killed my family." Clara read the wall, her heart sinking with each line. Jacob Steele's wife and daughter, burned alive for practicing herbal medicine. The official charge, witchcraft. The real crime, healing people the judge's doctor couldn't heal. They burned them. Jacob nodded. He carved, "Made me watch." "Is that when they cut out your tongue?" "Before, for speaking against them." Clara understood. Jacob had tried to defend his family publicly, so they silenced him. Then they killed his wife and child while he could only watch in mute horror. "Why didn't you leave?" Jacob carved slowly. "Nowhere to run. Everywhere same." It was true. Judge Blackwood's influence stretched across 3 territories. There was nowhere to hide from his kind of power, so you stayed to get revenge. Jacob's eyes met hers. He carved justice. What's the difference? Revenge for me, justice for all. Clara looked at the wall again. So many names. So many families destroyed. How? Jacob carved. Evidence. Witnesses. Truth. Who would believe us? Territorial Marshal. Coming next month. Hope flickered in Clara's chest. You've been waiting for him? Preparing. Outside, the sound of hoofbeats echoed through the canyon. Distant but getting closer. Jacob extinguished the lantern immediately. They're searching for me, Clara whispered. Jacob nodded. He carved quickly in the dark. Deputy Kane. How do you know? Watched them bring you. You saw what they did? Yes. Why didn't you help sooner? Jacob paused, his knife still. Then he carved. 12 armed men. Had to wait. The hoofbeats grew louder. Voices carried on the night air. Check every cave, every shack. She's out here somewhere. Maybe the coyotes got her. Judge wants proof she's dead. Find a body or keep looking. Jacob gathered his supplies quickly, stuffing everything back into the hidden compartment. He carved one more message. Carry you home. I can't walk. I know. It's 20 miles. I know. They'll kill us both. Jacob's eyes were steady in the darkness. He carved, maybe, but not today. The voices were closer now. Torches flickered between the canyon walls, casting dancing shadows on the rocks. This way. I see light. Jacob lifted Clara as gently as he could, one arm under her knees, the other supporting her back. She bit back a cry as pain shot through her legs. I'm too heavy. Jacob shook his head. For a man who couldn't speak, his determination was louder than any words. He carried her to the back of the shack, where another loose board concealed a narrow opening. Clara hadn't seen it before. Jacob had carved himself multiple escape routes. There, the mining shack. Torches appeared at the front of the building. Jacob squeezed through the back opening, Clara in his arms. They emerged behind a pile of rocks that hid them from view. Jacob's horse waited in the shadows, a sturdy mare with intelligent eyes. He lifted Clara onto the saddle, then swung up behind her. The torches reached the shack. Men's voices filled the night. Nothing here. Blood trail leads this way. Keep searching. Jacob guided his horse through the rocks, following paths only he knew. Clara leaned against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. For the first time since the beating, she felt safe. Thank you, she whispered. Jacob's arms tightened around her protectively. Behind them, angry voices echoed through Devil's Throat. Ahead lay 20 miles of dangerous country and the most powerful enemies in the territory. But Jacob Steele had waited 3 years for justice. Tonight it began. Jacob's horse picked its way through narrow canyon paths that existed only in memory and moonlight. Clara clung to his chest as the mare navigated loose rocks and sudden drops, following routes carved by water and hidden by time. Behind them, torches swept back and forth like angry fireflies. But the searcher stayed on the main trails. How do you know these paths? Jacob carved a quick letter against her palm. H. Home. He nodded. This canyon had been a sanctuary for 3 years, every stone and shadow mapped in his mind. Clara shifted in the saddle, her legs throbbing with each step. Her hand brushed against Jacob's saddlebags, feeling the bulk of papers inside. What are you carrying? Jacob reined in the horse and opened one bag. Clara saw documents, photographs, letters tied with string, evidence, testimonies written in different hands, some in languages she didn't recognize. All of this is about Judge Blackwood? Jacob nodded. He pulled out a photograph, held it up in the moonlight. A woman with Clara's eyes smiled back at her, holding a small girl. Who is that? Jacob carved against her palm. M-R-Y. Clara's breath caught. Mary Steele. That's your wife. Jacob shook his head. He carved S-I-S-T-R. Your sister. Clara looked closer at the photograph. The woman's face was familiar, hauntingly so. What was her last name before she married? Mwargian. The world tilted. Morgan? That's my name. Jacob carved. Yurgr. Clara stared at the photograph. Her grandmother, who died when Clara was 5, who'd taught her about herbs and healing before she mysteriously disappeared. They killed my grandmother? Jacob carved. Bjornidi Liv. For what? Hethiopia WMN. Clara understood. Her grandmother had been a midwife, helping women through difficult births and unwanted pregnancies. In Judge Blackwood's world, that made her dangerous. We're family. Jacob smiled for the first time since she'd met him. He carved, Family. They rode to the night, following paths that seemed to remember older times, when the land belonged to people who understood justice differently. Dawn broke as they approached the Morgan farm, its weathered buildings sitting in a valley like a promise of safety. Clara's father, William, ran from the house before they reached the yard. Clara, my God, we thought you were dead. Jacob lifted Clara down gently. William helped carry her inside, his face grim when he saw her splintered legs. Who did this to you? The same people who killed Grandmother Mary. William's face went white. How do you know about Mary? Jacob told me. She was his sister. William looked at Jacob with new recognition. Still, I remember you from the trial. Jacob carved. RMBRYOUTOO. What trial? Clara asked. The one where Jacob tried to testify for your grandmother, before they cut his tongue out. Clara's mother emerged from the kitchen, her eyes red with tears. Behind her came other faces Clara didn't recognize. Men and women with the same haunted look Jacob carried. Who are all these people? Families, William said. Like ours. People who lost someone to Judge Blackwood's justice. An old woman stepped forward. I'm Ruth Patterson. They took my daughter for practicing medicine without a license. A younger man spoke up. Tom Chun. My wife delivered babies the judge's doctor couldn't save. Called her a witch. More voices joined in. The Henderson family, whose son was hanged for sedition. The Garcias, whose land was stolen through false legal claims. Dozens of victims, all gathered in Clara's family home. How long have you been meeting? 3 years, William said. Since Jacob first brought us proof of what the judge was doing. Outside, the thunder of horses shook the ground. Through the window, Clara saw Judge Blackwood himself riding into the yard with 20 armed men. Come out, William Morgan. Bring the girl and the mute. William looked at the gathered families. Everyone knows what to do. Heads nodded. Hands moved to conceal weapons. This wasn't a gathering of victims anymore. This was an army. Clara pulled herself to the window, her broken legs screaming with each movement. Judge Blackwood sat his horse like a king surveying his domain. Judge Blackwood, I'm here. Miss Morgan, you've caused considerable trouble. Have I? Come out. Face the consequences of your defiance. I'll face whatever comes. But not alone. The farmhouse door opened. William emerged first, then Jacob, then the Patterson family, the Chens, the Hendersons. Dozens of people filled the yard, surrounding the judge's men. What is this? Blackwood demanded. Clara appeared in the doorway, leaning on makeshift crutches. This is justice, Judge. The kind you never learned. Arrest them all. But the judge's men hesitated. They were outnumbered now, facing an entire community instead of isolated victims. Jacob stepped forward, pulling documents from his saddlebags. He handed them to Clara. These papers document every crime you committed for 20 years, Clara called out. Every murder, every theft, every family destroyed. Lies written by criminals and degenerates. Signed testimonies. Photographs. Bank records. All in your own handwriting. Judge Blackwood drew his gun. Enough. Jacob moved like lightning, his silence becoming speed. He tackled the judge from his horse, both men hitting the ground hard. The judge's gun fired wildly. The yard exploded into chaos. The judge's men found themselves fighting not helpless victims, but people who'd spent years preparing for this moment. Jacob rolled in the dirt with Judge Blackwood, 20 years of suppressed rage finally finding its target. The judge's gun came up. Jacob caught his wrist, twisted until bones snapped. Blackwood screamed. "Please," the judge gasped. "I'll leave. Never come back." Jacob looked at Clara, then at the families around them. He carved letters in the dirt. T-O-L-A-T. Judge Blackwood died in the same canyon, where he'd ordered so many others to die. 6 months later, Clara walked without crutches for the first time. Her legs had healed crooked but strong, like the community that had saved her. Jacob worked their combined land, speaking through actions instead of words, building something beautiful from the ashes of tyranny. Together, they'd found their voices in justice.